Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the regular Harrison Village Council meeting. I'll be chairing the meeting tonight in the absence of Mayor Wood, who's still on vacation, and in my capacity as Deputy Mayor and Acting Mayor on this occasion. I call this regular meeting of Council to order and acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Chehalis. The first item I have is an introduction of a late item. And what we're going to do tonight is to release to you some information and decisions that were made by council at a closed meeting. So I'll entertain a motion from anybody to add the release from closed as a late item under section 12.1 and to release those decisions to the public. Somebody like to move?
I have a late item as well.
Well, no, this is the only late item we're dealing with, Councillor Facio.
No,
Councillor Vidal,
sorry, Acting Mayor Allen,
what?
I'm, as per our procedure bylaw. The mayor or presiding member may add correspondence, reports, or other items to the agenda of a regular meeting of council, and that meeting providing council concurs to late items by resolution. The member of council may request an item be added as new business to the agenda of a regular meeting of council. In that meeting, providing council approves the new business by resolution. All documents intended to be considered by council at the meeting must be delivered to the corporate officer no later than 12 noon on the Wednesday preceding the day of the meeting, which I did.
Well, I'm sorry, nobody told me about any late item last Wednesday. So
It was actually the email from the corporate officer was sent to you, sir, regarding my late item. The late item, I believe, was sent to you by the corporate officer.
I don't recall that, but it was a busy week.
Corporate officers here.
But Councillor Facio, we have to stop this idea that you can come in and ambush us with late items.
I didn't ambush
We have an
you.
agenda,
Yeah.
it's set, and that's what I'd like to get
I
on.
didn't ambush you. I did it as a required time prior to the following meeting.
Is there some urgency to this?
Yes, there is.
Councillor Vidal,
I also have a late item to add, Mr. Chair.
sorry, I didn't hear any of that.
I also have one late item to add to the agenda under new business. Thank you.
Well, Councillor Vidal and Councillor Facio, we have an agenda. I'm not prepared to start opening it up to late items without notice to the council and to the public as to what's going to be happening. So with your permission, we'll move ahead.
No, excuse me, Acting Mayor Allen. I've quoted the procedure bylaw. If you don't wish to follow the procedure bylaw, I will call the point of order.
Second. So you're now arguing that under our procedural bylaw,
Yes,
you are allowed to put this on the agenda at this
Yes.
point?
agendas comes under agendas.
Okay, well, I would have to.
C, D, and E.
All right. Does the corporate officer have a copy of the procedural bylaw that I can look at, please? So Councillor Facio is demanding that he and Councillor Vidal is demanding that she be allowed to add late items to the agenda. I'm very much opposed to this. To me, it's ambush legislation. If they had time to get it in and we all were prepared for it, that would be good. I have no idea what it is that they intend to put before council tonight. If I rule in his favor and in her favor, we will have 2 new items to be added to the agenda somewhere. And I, for one, am not prepared to deal with any such items. And that's why I classify and characterize this as an ambush legislation. But under the threat of having a challenge to the chair, which will require me to dig even deeper into the bylaws, rules, and Robert's rules, I will reluctantly ask Mr. Facio what you would like to add to the agenda at this late hour.
Thank you. I will repeat again that I did give you fair notice as asked. And you did receive the email and you refused to add the agenda to the agenda. I will be asking for a resolution as already passed by council for the removal of the trees on Lillooet.
I'm going to rule that out of order because those trees are evidence in an investigation and cannot be touched until that investigation is complete.
Investigation by who? And I need an explanation, please.
The investigation is underway.
By who?
Well, you know,
I don't know any investigation. Did the council resolve this?
Councillor Facio,
We passed it. You
trees
tried.
are evidence in an investigation. They will not be touched until the investigation is complete.
Oh,
Councillor Vidal,
I'd like a confirmation from our corporate officer on that, please.
it is my ruling that the trees are evidence and must not be tampered with until the investigation is
Evidence
completed.
for what reason? The public have a right to
cannot-
know.
I cannot discuss that because it is a matter under investigation.
It's not,
Councillor Vidal, did you have something that you wanted to add?
excuse
to
me,
the-
sir, I'm still speaking.
But Mr. Facio, you don't seem to understand.
Excuse me.
Trees are staying until the investigation is complete.
We
They
are,
are evidence.
we are at a formal, regular council meeting. I will be addressed as councillor, please.
You
and-
will not be allowed to destroy the evidence.
I am
That
not,
exists
I'm
until that
asking you a
evidence.
simple question. What legal notification do we have that this is under investigation?
I cannot discuss that because of what do they call them? Non-disclosure agreement demands by some parties. So I cannot talk about it. Councillor Vidal, do you have something that you'd like to add to the agenda?
I am putting forth an appeal on your ruling on Councillor Facio's request. I'm appealing your decision and will require a seconder.
Second.
All right. This is going to be a long night. So Councillor Vidal, for clarification, you are appealing my ruling? And under what authority are you appealing my ruling?
That's correct. I'm appealing your decision. I'm calling point of order. Point of order that late items are allowed to be added to the agenda. If you disallow it, then I am calling an appeal on that decision, which has been seconded by Councillor Facio.
Well, that wasn't my question. My question is this something that you're doing under our procedural bylaw or under a statute? What is your authority for this? Is it an appeal?
It's under section 116C of the Community Charter and also Robert's Rules of Order.
Can I have that section again, please?
Section 116C of the Community Charter. Section 132 requires that the mayor decides points of order that arise. If the mayor overrules or refuses to hear the point of order, or rules on a point of order, and a council member disagrees with the ruling, any member of council may request an appeal under section 132. The appeal must be seconded. Once the
Yes.
appeal has been requested and seconded, the mayor must immediately put forward the question as to whether the chair is to be sustained.
I have to ask the corporate officer, do you have available to me section 116E? And I think she's quoting 132E. Are those available that I can review at this point to make a ruling on her appeal?
I don't have a copy of the community charter with me at hand, but I can read the sections if you like.
Sorry, you'll have to tell me that again. I can't hear up here without this little speaker. So tell me again, if you have or you haven't got the statutes present for me to refer to.
I don't have a hard copy of the community charter on hand, but I do have an electronic version that I can read out to you if you wish.
So can you show me the electronic version, please? I'm sorry. If I was doing this all the time, I might be on top of these rules, but since I'm only here temporarily, I need to be sure that we're doing the right thing. Don't see anything in 116 that
Thank you.
So, Councillor Facio and Councillor Vidal are determined to cut down the 4 oak trees on Lillooet Avenue West. There is an investigation active concerning those trees. In my opinion, the trees were not considered to be worthy of destruction in the original arborist report. And I believe that the trees should remain, be pruned, and be brought back to health. And Mayor Wood agrees with me on that. Unfortunately, we're only 2 members of council, and these 2, I haven't heard from Councillor Jackson on this yet, seem determined to cut the trees down. The investigation which is underway is going to cost the village of Harrison a lot of money. And in my opinion, these trees are key evidence in that investigation. And cutting them down at this stage while they are part of that investigation, to my mind, is the destruction of evidence and ought not to be allowed to happen. I believe I've already given instructions to staff that these trees are to be protected from any attempt to tamper with them until the investigation is over. I've ruled against Councillor Facio for those reasons. Councillor Vidal has now again called a point of order, challenging the chair. And the corporate officer has provided me with a roadmap through this bit of political wrangling. So under this roadmap, Councillor Vidal has called a point of order. The next thing that I am supposed to do according to this roadmap is to make a ruling. And my ruling is that the motion is out of order.
Then pursuant to section 1322 of the community charter, I appeal the decision of the chair, and it will require a seconder.
So Councillor Vidal, pursuant to section 132 subsection 2 of the community charter, has appealed my decision as the chair. Councillor Facio has seconded that. So I must now ask a question. And the question is quite simply, and the answer is fairly predictable. Is the chair sustained? So I put that question to the council. Is the chair sustained? The next thing that does happen then is that oh, where does that come from? Okay. Oh, a vote is now required. All those in favor, please vote by raising your right hand.
What are we voting on, please, Mr. Chair?
We're voting on the question that I've been required to put, which is the chair sustained?
Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion?
Your worship, I'm not up to talk. I would like to get on with the agenda. It's now going on 25 after 7. I have an 8 a.m. appointment. I don't want to be here all night. I think the chair should get on with the meeting. Personally, we have to get down to business here, and we're not doing it. Yeah, we have a big agenda to do, and I want to get this agenda done. So we have to quit this dickering. I don't want to be here all night. The staff was here today and they're here now.
Councillor
Let's
Jackson,
get on with the agenda.
Councillor Jackson, I agree with you entirely. I have a big agenda to get through tonight and I want to get on with it. Unfortunately, Councillor Facio and Vidal have brought up this wrinkle and we have to go through a process to deal with it. And that's what we're doing. So we're now at the point where I've asked the question, is the chair sustained? All those in favor? All those opposed? All right. The vote is 2-2. The motion is tied. And Madam Corporate Officer, you have something to input me with?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor Allen. In the case of an appeal pursuant to section 132 sub 3, the mayor or other presiding member may not vote on a motion for an appeal.
So essentially, what the corporate officer is trying to advise is that that vote is 2-1.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, so the mayor, pursuant to section 132 sub 3 sub A, the mayor may not vote. Mayor or presiding member may not vote on a motion regarding an appeal. So in that vote, it appeared that Councillors Facio and Vidal voted in opposition. Councillor Jackson abstained from voting, which is voting in the affirmative, which is 2-1 in opposition. Therefore, the motion did not carry.
Sorry, I don't see anything on this sheet that says the mayor shouldn't vote, but, oh, here, the mayor cannot vote at the bottom. Okay, so I'm not allowed to vote. That's fine. The motion is carried, so the mayor is not sustained. So my ruling on the point of order is overruled. That means that we will entertain Councillor Facio's motion to destroy the 4 beautiful, lovely red oak trees, which are happily growing on Lillooet Avenue West at the moment. Do you have a particular motion to put forward for this, Mr. Facio?
My motion is that as per council's previous resolution, that the trees were to be removed several months ago. We had an offer from yourself to take care of these. That was refused by a majority by council. So I'm just bringing it forward now that the resolution should be upheld and that the trees should come down. If I have an opinion which you're talking about given to me why there is investigation. It is news to myself. There is an investigation. Then it could change, but I haven't had anything given to me to suggest there is a legal investigation into this. And why would there be?
I can assure you, Mr. Facio, that there is an investigation and a very expensive lawyer has been hired to conduct that investigation.
May I ask the corporate officer, please?
Sorry?
May I ask a question to the corporate officer?
No, you may not.
Well, I'm sure the council, if there's a legal opinion something moving forward regarding the trees, why has council not been appraised of this?
Council is very much aware of that investigation. So do you have a resolution to
Are
put in
you
front
aware?
of council, Mr.
Are you
Massey?
aware of it? Is Councillor Jackson aware of it? No, we're not aware of it.
I cannot explain that to you because of the confidentiality rules surrounding it. But you are aware. So-
Excuse me, Mr. Deputy Mayor Allen, with respect, why are you insisting that we know this when we do not know this? If there was a legal opinion moving forward with this, of course, council, I wouldn't be here tonight making this resolution. We would wait for that investigation to be completed. We have not been appraised of any investigation regarding the trees.
Mr. Facio, as you well know, under the rules concerning our in-camera meetings and council confidentiality, I am prohibited from explaining any further to you what is going on.
So you've attended
you may not
in-camera,
ask.
you've attended an in-camera meeting without the remainder of council.
Sorry, enough of the argument. Would you like to put some kind of a motion on the floor,
Motion,
please?
I'm putting my motion forward that the 4 oak trees on Lillooet Avenue should be removed as per council's previous resolution.
Okay. I think we need to know what the previous resolution was. Do you have a copy of that, Madam Corporate Officer?
I do. I can get a copy of that. That's no problem. I do think we should stick to the introduction of late items at this time. If I could offer the suggestion of just that this item be added as a topic of discussion for late items, moving on through introduction of late items. Once you've approved the agenda and agreed to speak to it, then it can be discussed in new business.
Very sound advice. Okay, so the motion that I will entertain at this point is not a motion to determine the destruction of the 4 trees. It is a motion to amend the agenda to add this item to the agenda for further discussion. At what point should that go on, Madam Corporate Officer?
Normally, it's new business when a late item comes.
Sorry.
It would be
what number is that?
14B, 14B.
14C, is that right?
B.
14B. Okay. Adding 14B.
Mr. Mayor?
So have we passed the resolution then to add this to item 14B as new business? Did we vote on that? Okay, all those in favor of adding Councillor Facio's item to 14B, late items or new business? Vote by raising your hand.
Mr. Mayor, I would prefer to have this item referred back to staff. Because if there is such a thing as an investigation, which I'm not aware of, but if it happens, I'd like to know about that. So I would rather have this referred back to staff.
Councillor Jackson is asking that this matter be referred back to staff. If
Pardon me.
Councillor Vidal,
Acting
Councillor.
Mayor Allen, pardon me. I think what the proper procedure is here to put it on the agenda as a late item. And then once we get to it under new business, then it can be referred back to staff at that time. And we have also staff has the release from closed that needs to be added under new business as a late item under new business as well, please. Or sorry, on 12I under the reports from staff.
thank you, CAO. The suggestion, Councillor Jackson, is that we go ahead and put this on the agenda at which time you will be free to make your suggestion to refer to staff. Is that okay with you? Okay, all in favor of adding this item to the agenda 14B? Opposed, if any, please note the mayor is opposed. Well, 30 minutes later, I think we have now approved the agenda.
Actually, Mayor Allen, forgive me.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, I did indicate that I wanted to add a late item also. Thank you.
Can you repeat that? I can't hear.
I believe I indicated to you earlier that I also would like to add a late item under new business.
And what is the new business that you wish to add to the agenda, Councillor Vidal?
I do also want to point out that I did submit my request for this to be added under new business prior to the Wednesday at noon, which is required prior to the council meeting. It was submitted to the corporate officer and it was forwarded to you. Nonetheless, the late item that I would like to add, and I will read the motion, that official community plan bylaw number 1184, 2022, as amended to comply with section 437, correction 473, subsection 3 of the local
Sorry,
government.
Councillor Vidal, I have to interrupt you. For some reason, I can't hear a word you're saying. I'm going to turn the microphone completely off. Do you mind if I come closer to you? Well,
Mhm. Is that better? My motion will read that official community plan bylaw number 1184, 2022, as amended to comply with section 473, subsection 3 of the Local Government Act, be placed on the March 4th, 2024 regular council meeting for consideration of third reading and adoption.
so now what you're doing is you're setting the agenda for the next council meeting? Is that what you want to do?
No, my request is just to have it added onto the agenda for the March 7th council meeting.
Well, I think that's a matter for Mayor Wood to deal with on March 7th. If you wish to add something to the agenda, you should speak to him before May 7th.
I would like to add this as a late item for discussion under new business tonight.
Sorry, so your request now is that we add this request for discussion tonight?
Yes, under new business tonight.
And you want that added as new business,
That's correct.
14C? You are aware, I hope, Councillor Vidal, that Premier Eby has introduced 4 new bills which are before the House in Victoria. The 4 bills that are before the House, if passed, will basically scrap all official community plans and rewrite them. And other municipalities have quite wisely stopped any work on official community plans until we see the effect of the 4 bills that Mr. Eby has put forward, and whether we will still have the ability to adopt our own community plans, or will in fact have community plans dictated to us by Victoria. So I don't see any point in us proceeding to flog this dead horse when the whole world of planning is upside down and topsy-turvy, and OCPs and even zoning bylaws may be coming down from Victoria that we.
Point of order, Mr. Chair, please. I believe that this should take place under discussion of the agenda item under new business.
Okay, does this require a seconder, Madam CEO? Is there a seconder for Councillor Vidal's motion to add discussion on the OCP to a later agenda? Seconded by Councillor Facio. Discussion, if any, on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Mayor Allen opposed. Thank you. We ready for a break, or should we move on?
Deputy Mayor Allen, we do need a resolution to add the late item under 12I still, please, the release from closed.
Very good. The corporate officer would like a resolution from council to add the release of some decisions from our in-camera meetings to the public, and permission to do that and to add that as item BC 14D. Would that be correct?
That'd be 12I under reports from staff.
Sorry.
12I under reports from staff.
It's going under 12I, report from staff. I'm quite happy with that. Okay, all those in favor of 12I?
Moved.
Motion's carried. Goodness gracious. Okay. So, I'll now entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Moved.
Moved Councillor Facio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion. The motion is to use the printed agenda plus the additions that we've just voted on. All those in favor? Motion carried. Adoption of council minutes. We have the special pre-closed council meeting minutes of January the 30th to be adopted. Would somebody like to move that? Move Councillor Jackson. Seconder. Seconded Councillor Vidal. Discussion. All in favor? Motion carried. We have the regular council meeting minutes of February the 5th to be adopted. Would somebody like to move that? Move Councillor Facio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion of any? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Item 4C, that the public hearing record of February the 6th, 2024 be received. Moved by Councillor Vidal, seconded by Councillor Jackson. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Under the consent agenda, we have correspondence from the City of Abbotsford asking for support for resolutions. I'll move for, is it receipt of the consent agenda?
Pardon me, Deputy Mayor Allen. We still need to move to business arising from the minutes. That's item number 5 on the agenda.
Business arising from the minutes? Thank you. Is there any business arising from the minutes that we've just approved or adopted or received? If not, we move along to the consent agenda. Item 6.4A, a letter from the City of Abbotsford being support for resolution. Do we normally just receive these? Motion to receive. Somebody like to move that? Councillor Jackson. Seconder, Councillor Facio. Discussion of any? Yes, Councillor Facio.
I'd like to pull that out for a resolution. Please.
Councillor Facio is asking that we remove item 4A from the consent agenda for discussion. Does that require a resolution or is that on request? Madam Corporate Officer.
The motion to receive is on the table, so we should get that voted on first, and then Councillor Facio can make the motion to move that item from the consent agenda to correspondence.
Okay, thank you. So the first motion will be to receive or approve the consent agenda. All those in favor? Very good. We have no delegations or petitions on the agenda. We're moving to correspondence. This will be your chance, Councillor Facio, to ask for the Abbotsford letter to be brought forward for further discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to ask for council's to support this letter. I'll make that motion.
Okay, and could you, okay, is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Jackson. Would you like to explain the relevance to Harrison for that, Mr. Facio, and why we should endorse it?
Yeah, for those members of the public don't have the full agenda, that the City of Abbotsford is asking for a resolution that the Fraser Health Region, which covers nearly 2 million people in 20 diverse communities, has only one publicly funded facility that offers rapid access to detox with a total of 24 beds for both youth and adults, which results in wait times for persons wishing to enter detox. Therefore, be resolved that the UNBC municipalities lobby the provincial government in order to provide more funding to open detox centres in the Fraser Health Region where they are needed, and where assessing existing ones would be difficult for individuals needing the service. Thank you.
Do we have a seconder already on that?
Yeah.
Councillor Vidal, all those in favor of supporting it? Motion's carried. Reports of councillors, committees of the whole and commissions. Shall we go clockwise tonight? Councillor Jackson, any reports? Microphone, please.
I almost was falling asleep, I think, from this great discussions. Yes, February the 6th, of course, I went to the public hearing, which was really good. We got a lot of wonderful input from our residents. Let's see now, I attended the budget meeting today. However, tomorrow I have a 2-day retreat with the Fraser Valley Regional Library. And that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Vidal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On February 6th, I also attended the public hearing. It was a good turnout and certainly appreciate all the comments and that were received. February 7th, I attended a Citizens Advisory Committee at Mountain Institution. February 17th, I certainly had the pleasure in attending Todd Richard's Follow Your Heart benefit concert for Variety, the children's charity. This was the second annual event, and once again, I raised my hands to Todd and all the amazing volunteers and sponsors who contributed to such a successful event. Although the final amount raised is not yet available, it was indeed wonderful to see that close to $5,000 was raised just from the silent auction alone. Today, I attended a Community Futures North Fraser board meeting, and I also attended the Committee of the Whole budget presentation this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vidal. Councillor Facio.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor. Not much to report from the regional dip, but one thing I would like to bring up is this, through you to our staff, that they look at the radon apparatus, which I believe Councillor Jackson brought up a couple of weeks ago, that the library, that you can take them out and on loan, is that correct? To check your homes, the basements for the radon is what comes through your crawl space into your houses. The newer houses are so tightly built, airtight, that this stuff doesn't get released. But there was a presentation from a group from Chilliwack and a local builder there that they dig a hole in your basement and put an apparatus with a fan there, and it goes through your vents to release all that. But it is becoming a concern for cancer. So I would just like to refer this back to staff to look at what the cost of these would be, so we would have some on hand for residents in the community who wish to check their homes. They get a reading and it's all explained. There's more information for our staff if they wish on the Chilliwack website regarding this. But it's, I think it's something that's in this day and age that there's cancers from everything. And this is another thing that's hitting certain people, unfortunately. And that they should come back with a report on what the cost would be to purchase these, and then we could loan these out to the residents to check their homes. Of course, the cost of what the apparatus fitting this into your home is roughly between $4,000 and $5,000, so we were told, but that would be up to the individual homeowners. Thank you. That's just a referral to staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Facio. As Councillor Jackson has said, the radon test kit is available for loan at the library, and you can take it home and do your own test. It's interesting that it's a gas that occurs naturally within the earth, comes to the surface, and would normally blow away in the wind. But if it comes up underneath your house and goes into a confined space like your basement or even your upstairs, it can lead to a concentration which medical experts consider may be harmful to your health and may cause cancers. So it's well worth looking after it. I believe our building code has prevention in the code to prevent it from entering houses from the ground already. There's a barrier, a vapor barrier type thing. So it's mostly the older homes that need to be checked. If you've got a reasonably new home, it should be radon proofed, but an older home may not be. That moves to reports from the mayor. Last week, I attended a conference put on by the UBCM in Vancouver, and this was in response to the 4 bills that I mentioned earlier coming forward from Mr. Eadie and his government. And under these 4 bills, they are proposing a whole lot of legislation which will directly affect municipalities and will cause, in their estimation, a dramatic increase in the construction of new homes and affordable homes. The process has been very fast. There is an election coming up in about 8 months. They have a short spring session which just opened, and they really need to get on with it if they're going to get it done before they recess for the summer. So the 4 bills have come forward. There was some consultation before they were introduced, but as reported at the UBCM conference, the people who were consulted had to sign a non-disclosure agreement and weren't allowed to talk about it to anybody until the government released the proposed legislation. And that was a big problem for people like planners and CAOs who, having gone into the consultation, were not allowed to report back to their mayors or councils. So Harrison may escape most of this because we don't qualify as being a transportation hub. And the worst intrusions are into the whole field of official community plans and zoning. And it sounds like from this presentation that we had for 2 days in Vancouver, that they're not going to fuss about with individual legislation. They're going to make the legislation apply to every municipality, even though we're not in the front line of this housing crisis. So not being a transport hub will help us. But what we are going to get probably is, with all of this change happening, we will be getting people coming to Harrison, having been displaced out of Surrey, Langley, Abbotsford, Chilliwack, Greater Vancouver, the Metro Vancouver area. So it still will have an effect on us. But there's not much we can do about it until we see the regulation, and that will be released hopefully by the end of this week, and we'll be able to find out more, hopefully through UBCM, what the exact effect is. In the midst of all this, there is quite a shortage of planners throughout BC. They were all busy doing what they normally do, and all of a sudden this tidal wave of legislation has arrived on their desks, and the planning industry and the profession is feeling a lot of pressure to be able to respond. There were some cynics at the conference, some of whom felt that there was a risk that the legislation may backfire, and by the government offering so much free, affordable, and under-market housing might scare the free market investors out of the rental construction business and result in less rental housing than would normally be the case. One thing that is probably going to affect us is the Short-Term Rentals Accommodation Act. And part of Mr. Eby's vision, which is imposed right across BC as far as I can tell, is that there are far too many Airbnbs, VRBOs, and different vacation rentals using suites and basement suites and granny suites, etc., that were formerly occupied by regular working people on a full-time residential basis. And so he has introduced legislation which will force municipalities to somehow, and I'm not sure of the mechanism, force municipalities to somehow prevent Airbnb, VRBO, and whatever the other ones are called, which have displaced residential users of those suites and led to the shortage. It's not really clear how we're supposed to do that, but I know of one example in Harrison where we had a 12-suite apartment building that was occupied by people who worked in the area as affordable housing. It used to belong to the Harrison Hotel. 10 of those tenants have been evicted, and those 10 suites are now on a weekend rental basis. And that would seem to be the type of thing that Mr. Eby is trying to turn around and reverse. And we may get some kind of an order that will force us to go to that landowner and say, you got to get out of the overnight accommodation business and put those suites back on the market for regular rental. I have the Short-Term Rental Accommodation Act here if anybody wants to have a look at it, but it's quite sweeping and it will have a big effect on tourism in some cases. So we're not exempt from that, and we may have to deal with it. There was, I think, about 300 people at the mini conference. It lasted 2 days. It was very intense. I got to meet quite a few mayors that I'd known from the past, including Mayor Pranger from Agassiz, who was there. And had a chat with various politicians, including the provincial level and the minister, Kang, the Minister of Municipalities. So that took up 3 days of my time last week, and I just still am not clear, even after that, exactly what it's going to do to us in Harrison, but it will do something. I've also been looking at the land threat in Harrison and trying to establish what property we own and what property we have tenures on, and how we're going to proceed to reduce the fire risk in the community. At the end of the day, it's we in the village who will have to be leading the charge to make the community safer by reducing the fuel load in the woods and other efforts. We own quite a bit of land in Harrison. Firehall Park, for instance, the park up to the reservoir, the various pocket parks throughout the community, like Woods Park. Those are all our properties, and the important one, of course, is the land that we own along Rock or Macomb Drive. There's 78 acres of land there lying right along Macomb Drive, which we got title to in 1981. And it was my clerk at the time, Malcolm Wright, who spearheaded that effort. As a result of his efforts, we now actually own that land. We got a Crown grant for it in 1981. We've owned it ever since, and we intend to continue to own it. We got the land from the provincial government for the purpose of using it for recreation for the village of Harrison Hot Springs. And so when they gave us the title, they asked us to promise to use it for the purpose that they'd given it to us. And we did promise to do that by agreeing that if ever we didn't need the land anymore, that we would return it to the Crown, or if we were inclined to sell it to somebody, we would allow them to come back in and take it back over. So it's a slightly conditional Crown grant, but the condition is very small. And anytime you get a tenure or a Crown grant, there will be similar conditions on it. So we own, that's our biggest land holding in the village. The beauty about that ownership is that if we decide to go into that 80 acres, plus we have an acre north of it, it's about 79 acres altogether. If we decide to go in there and to deal with the fuel load in that particular woodland, it's our land. We don't have to ask anybody else for permission to go in. The only codicil I would say on that is that I've discovered that the village has granted a tenure over that whole 79 acres to the Fraser Valley Regional District. And I wasn't aware of that. And that would normally be a disposal of an interest in land have required a public process. I haven't been able to go back yet and see if that actually happened, but that could be a bit of a stumbling block and an impediment to us dealing with the woodland fire situation. So I've assessed quite a few of these woodland pockets, and I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be moving ahead and doing something about the accumulated fuel immediately. We have $30,000 budgeted to do so. We just need to get on with it. And I appreciate that there are applications in for different surveys and analysis and studies, etc. But I feel the frustration of a lot of paperwork and not any real action in reducing the fire risk, and that bothers me enormously. So we're moving on to have a meeting here on, is it the 6th of March? There will be a meeting here in the hall, which will explain further some of the efforts being made to secure the funding and get the right reports in place to move ahead with reducing the fire risk in Harrison, and it's a considerable fire risk. So we can't really ignore the fact that that's going to be happening. So moving on then to item number 12, reports from staff. We have the Fraser Valley Regional Growth Strategy Bylaw 1706. And the recommendation is that the Village of Harrison Hot Springs Council accept the Fraser Valley Future 2050 Regional Growth Strategy, and that the Village Council direct staff to send a letter to the FVRD confirming acceptance of the Fraser Valley Future 2050 Regional Growth Strategy. I'll entertain a motion to for the recommendation.
Moved.
Moved by Councillor Facio. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the lengthy document that takes up a good part of your agenda package tonight. Because we are part of the Fraser Valley Regional District, they have to include us in this regional growth strategy. And it becomes important even in the context of Mr. Aby's initiatives, because being inside it, I'm advised from the conference last week, because we're part of the regional growth strategy, that will mean that some of his initiatives will apply to us where they otherwise may not have. So it is important. Further discussion on the regional growth strategy. Any observations from the councillors? One observation I would make is that in predicting the growth of Harrison Hot Springs, the regional district has said that this village in the next growth period to 2050, which is 26 years down the road, will grow by 10 homes per year. That's not a lot of growth, but that is what they have predicted is our growth rate. That is slightly in conflict with all of the planning we've done over the years, which seems to indicate that we have the capacity to grow to a population of about 3,000 people, which might be the critical point at which we get grocery stores, drug stores, doctor's offices and things. But they see us as being a very slow growing municipality. And that's what's in the RGS, the Regional Growth Strategy. So if there are no other comments on that, I'll call the question for the recommendation, which is that we accept it and notify Fraser Valley Regional District we've done so. All those in favor? Opposed of any? Motion carried. The next is a report of the Community Services Manager, being the Fire Smart Community Funding and Support Approval. Would you care to read the recommendation and give us some background when we have it on the floor?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Allen. This is just to provide an update to Council on the status of the 2023 Fire Smart Grant application. Staff is pleased to advise that on February 14th, 2024, the village received a notification that the 2023 Fire Smart Community Funding and Supports application was approved for funding in the full amount applied for, totaling $178,595. This funding will be used to implement a Fire Smart position, such as a Fire Smart coordinator or wildfire risk reduction coordinator. It will also be used to fund courses for members of the fire department, assist with the production of a community wildfire resiliency plan, and to purchase Fire Smart structure protection equipment that can be used in the event of a structure or interface fire. The deadline to apply for the next intake, which is the 2024 Fire Smart Community Funding and Supports Program, is December 31st, 2024. To qualify for this intake, the village will need to either complete the projects identified as part of the 2023 funding, or will need to be within at least 120 days of doing so. Additionally, in order to be eligible, the village must have an established Fire Smart position and an updated CWRP. Staff is working on implementing these projects to qualify for the next round of applications. The recommendation is that the Community Service Manager's report dated February 20th, 2024, regarding the 2023 Fire Smart Community Funding and Supports approval be received for information. Thank you.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Facio, second by Councillor Vidal for receipt of the report. All those in favor? Motion carried. Item 12C. Report of the Community Service Manager Terry Fox Run Permit. Would you like to proceed to report on that, Madam?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. A volunteer with the Terry Fox Foundation has submitted a use of public and municipal property permit application for the Terry Fox Run Walk scheduled to take place on September 15th, 2024, and has requested that the village waive the event application fee and damage deposit. For some background information, at the July 10th, 2023 regular council meeting, Council for the Village of Harrison Hot Springs approved waiving the event application fee and damage deposit for the 2023 Terry Fox Run Walk. Schedule D of the miscellaneous fee bylaw number 1049/2014 outlines the fees associated to events held on public property. The event application fee for an event of this size is $100, and the damage deposit would be a maximum of $500. Pursuant to Section 5.1 of the village's use of public and municipal property policy, the village may, on a case-by-case basis, exclude events from some or all of the normal requirements based on the following criteria. Event organizers plan on utilizing the same route as last year, which does not require any traffic management. Waiving of this event application fee would result in a $100 loss of revenue to the village. And it does fit the strategic plan priority of a healthy, livable community. The recommendation before council is that Council for the Village of Harrison Hot Springs approve waiving the event application fee and damage deposit for the 2024 Terry Fox Run Walk.
Moved by Councillor Vidal, second by Councillor Facio. Discussion, Councillor Vidal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This was a very, very successful event last year. We coordinated it with, ended up being a joint Agassiz Harrison Hot Springs Terry Fox Run. I very much support this recommendation. If the fee was not waived, it would take away from any of the funds that were raised for the run, which goes to the Terry Fox Foundation. I also noticed in our gallery tonight is one of the prime organizers of the event. So if anybody on council does have any questions, you could direct them towards her. Thank you.
Any further comment, Mr. Jackson? Okay, I'll entertain a motion then to approve the recommendation. Move Facio, second Vidal. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Sorry, item 12D, report of the Community Service Manager, Public Notification and Evacuation Route Planning Grant. Yes, Stacy. Carry on.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Allen. This report is to present a grant funding opportunity to assist in improving evacuation route plans and public notification plans for council's consideration. Council identified public safety as one of its top priorities in the development of the 2023 strategic plan. The village currently has an emergency plan in place through the Kent Harrison Joint Emergency Response and Recovery Program. However, the village could benefit from clarifying and enhancing evacuation route planning and procedures, as well as improving public access to emergency information. The Community Emergency Preparedness Fund is a suite of funding programs intended to support First Nations and local governments to better prepare for disasters and reduce risks from natural hazards in a changing climate. The current funding available as part of this stream is for public notification and evacuation route planning. Eligible costs associated include costs for staff to develop and/or update evacuation route plans and public notification plans. Costs associated with public information workshops intended to inform the community at large about the developed plans and processes are also encompassed. Village staff would work with the emergency program coordinator to establish these plans, which would also result in updates to the Kent Harrison Joint Emergency Program, Joint Emergency Response and Recovery Plan. This ties into two of the 2023 strategic plan priorities, public safety and organizational development. The recommendation is that staff be authorized to submit a grant application to the UBCM Community Emergency Preparedness Fund, Public Notification and Evacuation Route Planning Program for up to $30,000. Thank you.
Moved.
Moved by Councillor Facio, second by Councillor Vidal. Discussion? I'd just like to report that I'm quite interested in the Northern Escape Route, which takes us up Rockwell Drive through Sasquatch Park and out over Mahood Creek to Ruby Creek and Highway 7. That route was blocked significantly back in 2021 by the heavy rains that washed out the hillside and took out the bridge at Greenpoint. The Greenpoint Bridge had been there for some time, and it was a steel bridge, 75 feet long, 2 flat cars. It was a big chunk of metal, and that river just threw it down the creek. Since that time, Highways has put in a temporary crossing using culverts. And I went to Vancouver the week before last to the Ministry of Highways office, where the bids were being opened for the replacement bridge, which is critical to our Northern Escape Route. The design for the bridge calls for a concrete bridge with a span of 60 feet. And the lowest bidder was one of the Emil Anderson companies called Ballina Construction. And they were in at shortly a little bit above $3 million as their low bid. I haven't had confirmation yet that they were awarded the contract, but the contract calls for construction to start now in February or March 2024 and to be finished by November of 2024. I'm pleased that they have put in their specifications a bypass bridge on the east side of the new construction, and that's going to be a 2-lane bridge, which will mean, I hope, that traffic crossing that creek will not be held up except by occasional construction needs, and we will not have an impediment to get out of this area to the north during the construction period. So things are happening on that route. They've finished up the 3 culverts that they've repaired for a cost of $5 million. They'll add another 3 or 4 million with this bridge, and that will get us at least up into the Sasquatch Park or the Harrison East Forest Service Road as places to run to if we have to get out of Harrison northwards in a hurry. So I'll now call the question on the motion to approve the recommendation. Councillor Vidal.
Thank you. Are we still in discussion on the rate committee? Thank you. Through you to our community services manager, just for some clarification, this $30 grant application, is that to update the existing evacuation routes that are now established through the emergency program coordinator, rather than going towards the proposed second evacuation route through Sasquatch Park? Is that correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Vidal. Yes, this is just a planning grant, not for infrastructure of road development. But it is more just focused on the planned side of things.
Thank you.
Okay, we're ready for the question. All in favor of the recommendation? Motion's carried. Item 12E, again, a report from the Community Services Manager, Local Government Development Approval Grant Program. Could you explain that to us, please?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Allen. This is an additional funding opportunity through UBCM. So this one would work to enhance the Village of Harrison Hot Springs development approval process for council's consideration. The intent of the Local Government Development Approvals Program is to support the implementation of established best practices and to test innovative approaches to improve development approvals processes while meeting local government planning and policy objectives. Eligible project costs through this funding stream include staff wages and administration, consultant fees, and public information costs. Activities eligible for funding include developing, reviewing, and/or updating internal development approvals processes to improve efficiency and effectiveness, developing, reviewing, and/or updating development approvals guidance for staff and/or applicants, which could be things such as creating guides, templates, and checklists for applicants and staff, reviewing zoning bylaws and providing recommendations to improve development approval processes, and training external partners on the development approvals process, such as organizing a workshop for the Advisory Planning Commission. This funding stream would support a council initiative that is already underway and has been identified by council as a priority. The recommendation is that staff be authorized to submit a grant to UBCM's Local Government Development Approvals Program up to $150,000.
And when you say a grant, you mean a grant application? Yes.
Yes.
Councillor Facio. Oh, Councillor Facio is moving the resolution. Somebody like to second that? Councillor Vidal. All those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. Moving over the page to Resort Municipality Initiative Contract, RMI. We don't hear from you very much at most meetings, so if you're making up for it tonight, if you'd like to explain this one to us, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Allen. This report is to provide an update to council on the Resort Municipality Initiative RMI contract obligations. At the June 12th, 2023 Committee of the Whole meeting, council passed the following resolution: that the skating rink be dissolved and future projects connected to the skating rink stop, and that the matter be referred back to staff to research the option of selling the skating rink. At the August 8th, 2023 regular council meeting, staff reported that the village did not have the ability to sell the skating rink and must continue to operate this asset. At the November 24th, 2023 special council meeting, the following resolution was passed: that the Starlight Skating Rink be erected and installed as soon as possible. At the December 4th, 2023 regular council meeting, the motion was brought before council for reconsideration and failed, resulting in the rink not being set up for the 2023-2024 winter season. The RMI program is intended to support small tourism-based municipalities to build and diversify their tourism infrastructure, deliver exceptional visitor experiences, and incorporate sustainable tourism practices and products. The Village of Harrison Hot Springs is one of the 14 resort municipalities in the province. Since 2007, the village has received over $6 million from the RMI program. This funding has supported important enhancements, including Esplanade Avenue beautification, village entrance development, beachfront playground, plaza development, and more. RMI funds also heavily support the events presented by Tourism Harrison River Valley. RMI funding is specifically for projects and events that are outlined in the village's Resort Development Strategy, RDS. The attached funding agreement and recent correspondence from the province outline the obligations of the village in carrying out the RDS. The Starlight Skating Rink and its corresponding projects were selected to meet one of the major goals of the RMI program, which is to enhance tourist activities in shoulder or off-season timeframes. Prior to ceasing operations of the skating rink in 2023, council received letters of support from local businesses and tourist accommodations expressing the importance of the skating rink and the economic benefits. The village's current RDS contains 2 projects associated to the rink, which are the fire pits and rink covering projects. Upon further research, these 2 projects no longer appear to be feasible. The costs associated with operating fire pits and the potential impact of the weather on a covering would likely prevent these projects from being successful. Additionally, due to inflation and issues related to sourcing materials, it is likely that the estimated cost of these projects has increased since the RDS was created. The village can apply to the province for permission to amend the RDS by reallocating the funds earmarked for these 2 projects. The Ministry of Tourism, Arts, Culture, and Sport has recognized that our resort municipality needs are changing due to climate adaptation and aging infrastructure within communities. They have suggested that they will take this into consideration when they release the new guidelines for creating the next RDS. When the new guidelines are released, staff will notify mayor and council, who may then choose to strike a select committee to plan for future RMI funding. A financial consideration referred to in the attachments is that if the village does not operate the Starlight Skating Rink, the province may request that the village return the $450,000 in RMI funding that was utilized for the project. If the village chose to sell the asset, we would be required to return to the province all funding provided to support this project. There are 2 recommendations before council, and those are that staff be authorized to seek provincial approval to amend the 2022-2023 to 2024-2025 resort development strategy to reallocate the funds associated to the rink covering and fire pits for the Starlight Skating Rink to the Lagoon Development Project, and that the operations of the Starlight Skating Rink and the Boat Launch Concession Addition Project be reinstated to ensure the village is not deemed to be in breach of its contract with the province for the Resort Municipality Initiative funding. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Facio, second by Councillor Vidal. Discussion? Councillor Jackson, any comment?
Yes, Your Worship. My comment is that I would like to see the skating continue, however, not in the current location. It's too far away from the mainstream. I don't like the idea of possibility of losing $450,000 in RMI money, which we've worked so hard to get. So I would really like to see this go back to staff so that we can follow up with their recommendations if that's possible.
Thank you. Councillor Vidal, any comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When I read this report, it actually caused me a level of concern. Especially the financial consideration, and as Councillor Jackson pointed out, to return the $450,000 RMI funding that we received for the rink, number one, would not be a good thing. And number two, it concerns me that by having to do that and be in default, I could see potentially jeopardizing future RMI funding. And the village has a very successful history of RMI funds being allocated. And these funds are not only to enhance our visitors' experiences, but let's also remember that our residents also enjoy any of the RMI infrastructures. Tourism is the main economic driver of Harrison, and to possibly breach any contract with the province, again, I'm fearful that it could jeopardize future RMI funding. And this would cause a considerable loss of revenue and possible cancellations of numerous events which RMI supports and which we all very much love and enjoy. So I'm very much going to support the recommendation, but through you, Mr. Chair, one question for a community services manager. If the recommendation passes, are we looking at reinstating the skating rink for the remainder of this season?
CSM, do you have an answer for that?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you to Councillor Vidal. No, our plan would be just to get back on track for the next winter season, given we're basically at the end of when it would normally be up, and then that would allow some proper planning in advance for operations and anything else that's required.
Thank you. And then through Mr. Chair, just one more question, sorry. In the report, you indicate to mitigate staffing challenges and overhead costs, staff is recommending that the village engage a local business to run the Starlight skating rink for a season as a pilot project. And I just want to be absolutely sure that if you're successful in doing that, and you know, I think it would be a good idea as a pilot project. Would there be any concern from the province with that?
Thank you. Through the chair, in response to that, the province has been quite clear that it is our asset, so we would be responsible still for the setup. But in regards to the skate rentals or operating any kind of concession, then we would be able to contract that out for someone to take up that role on for the village.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Very much in support of the recommendations then. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vidal. Councillor Facio.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Councillor Vidal brought up a very good point there regarding the if we didn't follow the contract with the province, the gentleman across the way from me, Councillor Jackson, and myself, he was a citizen at the time, not on council, was on my Economic Development Committee, and together, mostly with his help, we brought the RMI into this village. And it's been a tremendous success, and it's brought a lot of money into this community, which I call free money. And it's helped and we have to remember we are a tourist community, and the tourists support us, which support the businesses who pay a good chunk of the taxes as well in this community. So yes, we have to be very careful how we deal with a situation like this. That we don't, I've been involved for so many years with the RMI and meetings in regards. I remember a few years ago, they wanted to do away with the RMI getting the automatic funding. We get 2% every year to a grant funding situation. All the 14 communities didn't like that. They turned it down. And so we're still back on track with getting our 2% every year. So that's good news. But I fully support that the rink, it was successful when it was up. Unfortunately, we cannot control the weather, but at least it's there. It's an asset, and we should move ahead and install it for next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Facio. Well, for once, I actually agree with Councillor Jackson on something. I'd be very much in favor that if we are going to revive the plastic skating rink, that we bring it downtown into this core area of the village, away from the boat launch, and put it somewhere where it is more convenient and will provide greater benefits to the businesses by being located close to them. In my opinion, there are two sites that are appropriate. One of them is right on the other side of this wall. The street is called Maple Street North. It is slightly used, and the rink itself could be installed on this half of the street and still leave one lane of traffic being perhaps one way on the other side. The other thing that could happen is that we could control the weather. And I know that the proposed roof that was proposed for the location at the boat launch ramp was eventually considered to be unsuitable and not strong enough to handle the winds that come down the lake at that point in that exposed location. But I would draw council's attention to the bungalow motel site, which has been under discussion beside the boat launch ramp. And if you remember, the previous owner had installed a large green tent in the northeast corner of that property in a very exposed location at Rindle Park. And that tent was, I think, 60 feet long and 30 feet wide, with a height at the door of about 15 feet and a ceiling height in the 20 to 25 foot range. That industrial strength tent, it was green, sat on that site for 10 or 15 years and never had any problem with weather or wind or snow loads or anything like that. It's my opinion that we could still use the Starlink skating rink components by putting a tent like that up on Maple Street next door, installing the skating rink inside it along with the lights and everything else, bringing the container along from the boat launch for all the skate rentals here. And we could run that skating rink here in the center of Harrison for 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 months through the winter, and be able to provide a warm, indoor, well-lit recreation area, which I think would be the salvation of the skating rink. The second location that I've had in mind is in the plaza itself, maybe not with a tent covering, but because of the component nature of the tiles, it can become any shape that you want it to become, and it could be fit into the plaza. So the skating rink could really be central to the village. So I'd hate to see us lose the money. I'd hate to see us lose the equipment. The suggestion that a local business could possibly operate it is very close to my suggestion that I made back in the fall, that we offer it to the business community in Harrison so they could get together as a combination, either through Tourism Harrison or some other Chamber of Commerce or some organization, and they undertake to operate the skating rink because they seem to be the people who are most anxious that it be revived and continued. So if those possibilities are explored, and bearing in mind that we haven't really had much of a winter this year, and we may not have one next year either, or it could be the total reverse and a freeze up for 2 months. We don't know. Putting a tent over the top of it, to my mind, and putting a tent that's strong enough to handle whatever climate conditions are thrown at it here in Harrison, I think is the key to ensuring that we have a winter attraction that is usable 7 days a week, no matter what the weather is outside. So I'm very much in favor of exploring those possibilities. The CAO has his hand up. Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Allen. I just wanted to speak to a couple of comments that you made there regarding the structure, the cover of the structure. We did explore multiple different options, and they were extremely cost prohibitive, and it would be something that would be beyond our staff's capability to be able to set up and take down. And then obviously having the having to store that type of infrastructure would take up significant space. The only way something like that would work if it was in a permanent location. And then also, what I'd like to recommend to council is that I'm hearing that there's a couple of, or you're not happy with the location. So what I might recommend is that council approves the motions as they are written here, and then provide another motion on top of that, referring the rink location options back to staff for, and then we can bring it back to council with some options and maybe some costs, and see whether there's any implications in adding the concession, as Deputy Mayor Allen was saying.
Thank you for those comments. Just as a point of information, I'll tell you this because it was something that I did completely in public with everybody to see. When the demolition of the motel was along, I made an offer for the green tent. They sold it to me. I went in there with 3 helpers, and in 4 days, we took it down completely. And I have it in storage. It sits on one 20-foot trailer, the whole thing. So storage isn't really an issue. It's the size of a car parking space. And I'm pretty sure that anybody with basic construction skills and a man lift could put it back up in 4 or 5 days. And it is very strong and sturdy, as has been proven by it having survived in that exposed location. So I don't agree that it's prohibitively expensive. There are tents like that available on the new and the used market, and they are pretty low tech when it comes to putting them together. You put up the frame, you bolt it all together, you roll out the canvas, you strap it down, you've got a tent. So I think it's feasible, and it's something we should explore further. Councillor Vidal has a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With Councillor Jackson's permission, because he did raise the point earlier in this discussion, but with his permission, I'm happy to put forward a motion to refer back to staff to explore locations for the rink for next season, and to report back to council with some suggestions and options and costs.
Pardon me. We actually have a motion on the floor right now with the 2 items that are the recommendations.
Yes, I understand that, but what Councillor Vidal's motion is to refer that motion back to staff for further
No.
discussion.
No,
No, it's
no.
not.
Through you to our CAO, if I'm correct, then you would like a vote on these 2 recommendations first. And then if I wish to introduce another motion, then thank you for that clarification. So I'll withdraw it at this time and bring it in after we've decided on the staff recommendations.
Okay, just for clarification, Madam CEO, do I have a motion on the floor at the moment? I do.
Yeah, the staff recommendations were moved by Councillor Facio, seconded by Councillor Vidal.
Thank you. We'll now vote on that motion. All in favor? Motion is carried. Subsequent motion, Councillor Vidal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Then my motion will be that we direct staff to do research on other favorable locations for the skating rink for the 2024-2025 season, and report back to council on some of those options and costs associated with it.
Is there a seconder for Councillor Vidal's motion? Councillor Jackson? Discussion of any? One other location that has occurred to me is the parking area behind the public pool. If we were to negotiate with the Village of Harrison Hot Springs to use that space for the rink instead of parking during that winter period. The advantage of that is, apart from being very central, is that the building housing the public swimming pool itself would provide protection from the north wind, which is the biggest problem in the lakefront area. Councillor Facio. No, I'm talking about the Harrison Hotel's private parking lot on Lillooet behind their building. You know, at the traffic lights, that little parking lot that's on the corner for the Harrison public pool. Right, you got the public pool at the back of it on Lillooet, there's a parking area.
Oh.
Well, maybe it's 4 months, maybe it's 3 months. It's a winter time. It's not like there's a big shortage of parking in Harrison then. No, I'm talking about at the traffic lights, on this side of the traffic lights, in the area behind the Harrison public pool, there is a parking area for about 15 cars. I'm suggesting that that parking lot, being in a sheltered location behind the big building, might be a suitable location to attempt to erect the skating rink just for the winter season. No. No. The Harrison Hotel public pool at the end of this block, the pool that belongs to the Harrison Hotel. Yes, that's the parking lot I'm referring. Okay, it's Lillooet. All right. Well, the beauty of the ice rink is that you can make it any shape you want to make it because it's modular. Thank you. So did we pass that resolution yet? All in favor? Motion's carried. Oh, we're going to give the community service manager a break and go to Jace, the operations manager, to hear what he suggests to us for the RFIQ and a consulting service award. Jace, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Allen. To streamline procurement of consulting firms by creating best value to the village, a qualification-based selection process was created in the form of a request for information and qualifications issued on BC Bid. The goal of the RFIQ process is to establish a list of qualified firms that will provide consultation services for the village for a 2-year term under their awarded category. Once a project is initiated, staff will have the ability to request proposals directly from the pre-qualified list. On January 17th, 2024, staff issued an RFIQ for consulting services for environmental, geotechnical, and civil engineering. The results of this RFIQ establish a short list of qualified firms that may perform related consulting services under the 3 categories. The shortlist will be applicable for a 2-year term starting in 2024 and have been evaluated under the following requirements: environmental studies, permitting and planning, geotechnical engineering, reports, design and consultation, civil engineering design, studies, and master plan consultation. On the closing date of February 9th, 2024, staff received 21 proposal submissions. Proposals were evaluated based on experience and qualifications of the firm and team, success on previous projects, cost-effective designs, ability to complete assignments on time, references, and value-added benefits. Consideration was given to firms with expertise in municipal water, sanitary, storm sewer, master plan consultation, and bridge design to fit the needs of upcoming capital projects. This process will give staff the ability to request proposals directly from the shortlisted firms and initiate a contract based on cost, schedule, and expertise. This process will reduce wait times and allow staff to engage in conceptual ideas with the firms prior to a contract being established, resulting in better value for the village. There are no financial costs to the village associated with this award. Cost savings through this process will be seen in the reduction of staff time on procurement of consultants. Construction cost savings are also expected with the ability to work directly with consultants on value engineering during the project planning phase. The recommendation is that the RFIQ for consulting services for environmental, geotechnical, and civil engineering be awarded to the following firms. Under environmental consulting, Thurber Engineering, Red Cedar Environmental, and EXP. Under geotechnical engineering, GeoWest Engineering, Thurber Engineering, and EXP. Under civil engineering, Wedler Engineering, KM Civil Consultants, and Parsons. Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to accept the recommendation.
Move recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Facio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion. Councillor Facio, any comments? Councillor Vidal. Councillor Jackson. I have a couple of questions, if I might, Jace. One of my concerns is the propinquity of consultants. It's an old-fashioned word. How close are they? We've gone through some years of having our engineers located in Kelowna, which seemed to cause some delays and expense. And they came down to Harrison, they always had to have accommodation, and the distance wasn't helpful. So was the availability and of their personnel being close to Harrison one of the considerations in these selections? And if so, where are these people from?
Yes, it was a consideration. So these are local firms, and one of the evaluation criteria was local projects within the Fraser Valley. So all these firms have experience in the Fraser Valley and are located within the general area.
Do they actually have offices and personnel based here? Not just flying in to do a project and go off again?
The majority of them are within Chilliwack, Abbotsford, and some in Vancouver, but they are all within the Lower Mainland. Yes.
Just a little confused, but EXP, is that the full name of the company?
Yes, that's correct.
Not EXP Engineering or EXP Environmental? Just
From what I found, it was EXP that their submission was.
I'm certainly familiar with Thurber and Wedler being local, but the others are a mystery to me, but let's see. Okay. Ready for the vote? All those in favor of the recommendation? Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. Item H, report of planning consultant. The CAO will give this report in the absence of the planner. Mr. Cook, would you mind giving us this report, please?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Allen. We actually have the consultant on Zoom.
What?
Mr. Cossey is on Zoom.
Oh. Oh, that's a bit of a surprise. Okay, Mr. Cossey.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The applicant has submitted a subdivision application to the village office. The applicant wishes to subdivide the parent parcel into 2 lots. In order for the application to proceed, the applicant would require 4 development variance permits. If the applicant were to follow the village's zoning bylaw requirements, then there would be no need for a variance. The parcel, before I proceed any further, makes reference to the eastern boundary. The eastern boundary is R1 zone residential activities. So the parcel is zoned C2 and is located adjacent to Hot Springs Road along the northern, the southern, the western, boundaries of the site, the parcels of land are zoned for R2 residential activities, and the eastern boundary, as I mentioned earlier, is zoned for R1 residential activities, and I apologize for that typo. The parent parcel is approximately 0.40447 hectares in size. The applicant is seeking to create two proposed lots, which, if approved, will exceed the 464 square meter minimum lot size requirement. The site is designated as low-density residential. However, the continued use of this site is governed by section 6.3.2 of the current OCP. Existing zone parcel south of Ramona Place may be considered for neighborhood commercial type uses, provided the proposed development can demonstrate compatibility with the surrounding residential uses and does not encourage strip commercial mall or strip commercial development along Hot Springs Road. Please note that this site is not designated as a commercial development permit area or forming character in the current official community plan. The applicant wishes to vary the following C2 land use regulations as outlined in zoning bylaw 1115/2017. If you would like to see the lot layout, that's identified on page 151 of the agenda. Proposed lot 1 and its rear setback requirements is suggesting that it'll be reduced down from 6 meters down to 0.92 meters, and in one case down to 0.15 meters. The interior side setback requirements, again, to be reduced down from 3.7 meters to 0.92 meters, and in one case down to 0.15 meters. For proposed lot 2, the rear setback requirements reduce it from 6 meters down to 0.2 meters, and the interior side setback requirements reduce it from 3.6 down to 0.2 meters. As with all development variance permit applications, staff review the above referenced variance request from a health and safety perspective. In this case, staff cannot recommend approval as both the proposed interior and rear setback variance requests would not allow for the safe passage of any emergency vehicle completely around the proposed buildings or structures. Additionally, the current setbacks function as a small fire break. If any of the requested variances were permitted, this would no longer be the case. If council wishes to consider issuing the DVP, a draft permit has been attached to this report. There are no financial considerations associated with this report, and for the policy considerations, we looked at the zoning bylaw 1115/2017, the commercial 2 requirements, and the current official community plan bylaw number 864, specifically section 0.3.2, the policy comments. And with that, Mr. Mayor, staff is recommending that a development variance permit not be issued for 889 Hot Springs Road, the land legally described as Block A, reference plan 6466, southeast quarter of section 12, township 4, range 29, west of the 6th meridian, New Westminster District.
Moved by Councillor Vidal. Is there a seconder for the motion to accept the recommendation? Seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion of any? Councillor Vidal first and then Councillor Facio.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Mr. Cossey. Thank you for joining us tonight, Ken.
Not a problem.
I'm just a little confused. So does the applicant intend or is requesting subdivision for 2 additional lots and having that existing convenience store building remain?
Yes, what they're looking at doing is setting up a neighborhood grocery store, and then and the other lot would be a storage yard and containers. So they would take the subdivision and turn it into 2 lots.
So I fully, so I'm just looking here at lot 1. So The main concern is that if emergency vehicles needed to get in, they could not travel around the whole exterior of lot one or, yeah, of the lot. Because the setback would be, there wouldn't be any setback essentially. Am I correct in assuming
That is
that?
correct.
Thank you, Ken. Nothing further right now, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vidal. Councillor Facio, comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to Mr. Cossie. Ken, if what would the proponents have to do to come back with a revised plan that would assure that emergency vehicles would be able to enter onto the area?
They would have to readjust what their requirement is at this particular point in time. They can still do their subdivision. Just that if, when they got to the building permit stage, they wanted this, they would have to go through this entire process again.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. What is this mini storage or container storage a permitted use on that property in that zone?
Yes,
It is. Okay.
they're all permitted use.
All right, thank you. Ready for the question? All those in favor of the recommendation? Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. The recommendation is approved. Thank you, Mr. Cossie. Moving on to a late item on the agenda, which will be a release from the closed meeting. And we have, I believe, passed a resolution to release already, or do I have something that I need to read out?
Deputy Mayor Allen, I can read that.
Okay, the CEO will lead us through this little ceremony, starting with his report dated February the 20th.
Thank you, Acting Mayor Allen.
But by the way, the corporate officer is putting some copies of this on the back desk for those who might want to read it, just to update your agenda package. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Cook.
Many subjects requiring the confidentiality of a closed meeting only require it for a limited period of time. It is important that local governments have a process in place to regularly review the information produced at closed meetings. Information that would no longer undermine the reason for discussing it in a closed meeting would or should be released as soon as practicable. The above resolutions have been released from the November 6th, 2023 and November 16th, 2024 special closed council meetings. The recommendation is that the following closed resolutions be received for information at the February 20th, 2024 regular council meeting. From the November 6th, 2023 special closed council meeting. The title to this is Letter to Cease and Desist regarding social media site. Council discussed posts that have been made on the Facebook site Harrison Hot Springs News and Views. The village lawyer advised that more information regarding specific posts is required. And it was moved and seconded by council that information be forwarded to Lidstone and Company regarding the Harrison Hot Springs News and Views private Facebook page. And the second one is from the February 16th, 2024 special closed council meeting.
Excuse me. You better just read the whole thing since we have
Okay,
published it.
yeah, no, of course. And then there was a motion that from Councillor Allen. The motion be amended to include the Harrison Hot Springs Forum private Facebook page. And that failed due to lack of seconder. Second one is from the February 16th, 2024 special council or closed council meeting. The appointment of deputy fire chief. Council moved that that Captain Bruce Malfay be appointed as Deputy Fire Chief for the Harrison Hot Springs Fire Department. And the last one is the Section 16 Land Act Map Reserve. And the motion that council passed is that the Village of Harrison Hot Springs not pursue a replacement Section 16 Land Act map reserved for the 92.619 hectare lot of land legally described as District Lot 425, together with those parts of the west half of the southwest quarter and the west half of the north quarter of Section 7, Township 4, Range 28, west of the 6th Meridian, Yale Division of Yale District, that part of the east half and the southeast quarter of Section 12, Township 4, Range 29, west of the 6th Meridian, New Westminster District.
I'll read the background just for the edification of the public. The background is that many subjects require the confidentiality of a closed meeting only required for a limited period of time. It is important that local governments have a process in place to regularly review the information produced at closed meetings. Information that would no longer undermine the reasons for discussing it in the closed meeting should be released as soon as practicable. The above resolutions have been released from the November 6th, 2023 and the February 16th, 2024 special closed meetings here tonight. So we have, I believe, a resolution on the floor to this effect. Do we have the resolution yet, or are we waiting for the resolution?
That would be that the council received this report.
Sorry, I didn't quite get that.
That council received this report?
And well, I'd say the council should receive the report and approve the recommendation. Somebody like to move that? Moved Councillor Vidal, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Further discussion? Councillor Facio.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to staff. When this receipt is passed, am I able to make a motion regarding the cease and desist portion?
No, that's not what the recommendation is for.
No, I'm asking the question, once this is passed, I am at any time allowed to put in a motion, providing I get the resolution from council. I can do this once this has been passed. I want to make a recommendation to council regarding moving forward on this. This can be voted on.
No, Councillor Facio, the first step is to follow the instructions contained in the
Yeah,
resolution.
I appreciate that,
Just
but
to forward information, I believe, to Lidstone and Company.
well, Lidstone and Company has already received that information.
Well, if they did so without proper authority, because this is the authority that's being given to staff.
No, this
For
is,
that to
no,
happen.
no, this has come out of the closed meeting like you've just read. After that meeting, Facebook pages were sent to the solicitor. So this is behind, not forward. We're going behind with this whole thing.
Well,
They've received the relative information that can be confirmed, as I did.
when
with
we
our-
pass this resolution, which we have not yet done because you are talking about it,
Mhm.
when we've passed this resolution, it puts the issue of the village's attempt to control the communications through Facebook in the public domain. And that hasn't happened yet. So we need to pass this resolution so that people can then discuss whether it's appropriate for the village to censor either the Hot Springs Forum or the Harrison Hot Springs News and Views. And until that happens, we shouldn't be talking about it. So can we pass the resolution, please?
Well, again, I will ask the corporate, through you to the corporate officer to clarify if I'm, will be able to make a recommendation following the receipt of this recommendation.
When we have passed this resolution and this goes into the minutes, you are free then to make application to put a motion before the council at a future meeting. So,
No, I'm asking, as we're allowed at any council meeting for a councillor or the mayor, and the mayor's done this on many occasions, as we all know, to bring forward a recommendation following the receipt or the passing of a motion. The Councillor Vital did it just a few minutes ago.
Councillor Facio, I'm very uncomfortable with the fact that you're discussing this before we've passed the resolution, which formally makes this a matter in the public domain. We need to
Okay.
pass that resolution.
Lost resolution, then I will make my recommendation.
All right.
Thank you.
Are we ready for the question? The motion before council is that the following closed meeting resolutions be received for information at this meeting. Those include a letter to cease and desist social media and the two resolutions which were to include the Harrison Hot Springs Forum in that and to reject the Harrison, what's it called? Oh, to include Harrison Hot Springs News and Views in that censorship, but not to censor the Hot Springs Forum. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Oh, sorry, I'm voting against that, by the way. So that's that out of the way. And that brings us to item number.
Excuse me, Mayor, Acting Mayor Allen.
Yes,
You
Mr. Fancy.
made the point before we passed this, that once this was passed, that I could make my recommendation.
Councillor Facio, we've been through all this addition to the agenda, what, 2 hours ago? And we've decided what the agenda will be. It's too late to add new items to the agenda.
I'm not adding a new item. I am making a recommendation of what we've just passed.
Well, it's clear what we just passed.
Yes, I know, Will. I am making a recommendation to move forward with.
Well, we are moving
with a letter to our, if I'm allowed, first of all, to ask council if I can make a recommendation to move forward to have a letter sent by our lawyer to cease and desist the Facebook site. That's my recommendation. I would like that voted on.
Well, sorry, I'm not going to entertain that. That's new business. All we've done here tonight is we've.
You
released
just
this-
said to me before we pass this, after it's been passed, that you can make your recommendation. You just said it 2 minutes ago, sir.
Yes, when I said that, I had not intended that be done at this meeting tonight.
You didn't
That's
say
a whole
that.
new piece of business
You did not say that.
that
at
is
this
not in the
meeting tonight.
agenda.
You did
Point of
not-
order,
At a subsequent.
point of order.
Oh,
here
we go again. Yes, Councillor Vidal, what is your point of order?
My point of order is through you, I would like clarification from our corporate officer. If what Councillor Facio is asking is permitted, now that we have voted to adopt and vote on the recommendations of this council report. I was instructed not long ago that we needed to adopt the recommendations of the report. And then if another resolution or motion was to be put on the table, it was to be done then. So through you to the corporate officer, I would like clarification on that, please.
Corporate officer, I'm not clear what it is Councillor Vidal just said or what she's asking for. Perhaps you know.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Allen. So when a motion is passed in a closed meeting, that motion can be acted on right away. That what this report was doing was bringing it into the public realm. So releasing those recommendations from closed, it wasn't ratifying motions that were previously made. So the motion has now been released. Council did agree to approve the agenda as it was. Further discussion on this particular topic should be introduced at a future council meeting as new business.
Again, I apologize. Whatever's coming through here is a little garbled. Are you saying that this should be dealt with at a future council meeting? Is that what I heard you say at the end?
Yes, it's now been brought forward and into the public,
Right.
as it's now been released. So if, Councillor Facio would like to speak to it, he can now do so, at the next opportunity for approval of the agenda or with adequate notice, ahead of time to put a recommendation on the agenda.
Okay, I think that's what I've been trying to say. So Councillor Facio, you do have some action.
I accept the corporate officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is item 14B, I think. Oh, no. Where are we? We're at release from closed. Okay, we're at 13. 13 is bylaws. We have 4 bylaws to process this evening related to the charges being made by the village for sewer and water, and a sign bylaw amendment and a public notice bylaw amendment. So who is going to lead us through bylaw amendment number 13A, sewer regulation amendment? Will that be the Director of Finance perhaps, or because it's his fault? It's his bylaw. He's collecting the money. Madam Corporate Officer.
Yeah, so the 13A and 13B have been given the first 3 readings. So these 2 bylaws are just up for adoption. They've already been presented to council with 2 reports actually. So if there are any further clarifying questions, council can take this opportunity to ask.
Would you like that as 2 separate resolutions? 10, a motion to adopt sewer regulation amendment bylaw number 1197, 2023. Moved by Councillor Vidal, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Any discussion required? All those in favor? Motion carried. I need an auctioneer's hammer. That's what I used to use, a gavel. The second one is water regulation amendment bylaw number 1198 of 2023. And the recommendation is that water regulation bylaw amendment bylaw 1198 2023 be adopted. Somebody moves that the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Vidal, seconded by Councillor Jackson. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Report of the corporate officer. Signed bylaw amendment number 1199. Corporate officer, over to you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Allen. After the 2022 general local election, staff presented a report to council advising that section 2.1 and section 5.12 of the current sign bylaw are contradictory. During the September 2023 by-election, the sign bylaw was not enforced due to this wording conflict. And at a subsequent meeting, council passed a resolution for staff to draft some amendments. Amending the general election and other voting procedures bylaw to include a section on election signage would also require an amendment to sign bylaw number 1126 anyways, in order to eliminate any references to election signs. So staff is recommending that amendments just be made to the sign bylaw. And these drafts amendments include the addition of restrictions to the size, time frame, and location of election signs, The amendment bylaw also provides for the removal and return or disposal of election signs deemed to be in contravention. There are no financial or policy considerations associated with this report, and attached to the report is a draft bylaw for council's consideration. And the recommendation before council is that sign amendment bylaw number 1199/2024 be given first, second, and third readings.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Facio, seconded by Councillor Vidal. Discussion? Is this the bylaw that says that we shouldn't have election signs anywhere near village property? Okay, well, I'd like to speak against that. I see that under section 5.12. A, and then the first section requires that it contain the name and contact information of the candidate. That's already a requirement under the Provincial Election Act, so that seems to be redundant. 7-day removal, I've got no problem with that. Compliance with the Local Government Act, local election campaign financing, etc., are all understood. The 100 meters of a voting station, in the current legislation, it doesn't say that they're not allowed within 100 meters of a voting station. It says that they're not allowed to be within 100 meters of a voting station when a vote is being taken. So this excludes perhaps Memorial Hall or the school or the village office, large areas. And 100 meters is 300 feet, which is half a block in each direction. And I think that's unnecessary to have that prohibition, because signs should be more evenly distributed throughout the community and not clustered as they may be if there's a lot of prohibited areas. So I disagree with the 100 meters of a voting station, but would agree to that being amended to comply with the Local Government Act, that those signs be removed on voting day or advanced polling days. Item 2, don't understand the numbering here, are not placed at the village office, the village fire hall, or any municipal park, including any areas located north of Lillooet Avenue. Well, I think that election signs are really useful. They advise the public there's an election underway. They get the name of the candidates out there. And for any candidate who is not a well-recognized name by being on council currently, they're one of the few opportunities they have to get their name out there, and we wish to encourage people to get involved in our local government, not discourage them. So I thoroughly disapprove of the prohibitions in 5.12 at the bottom, because I think that that is unnecessarily restrictive. So the other rules in section B are pretty well still the rules that exist provincially, and I'm not sure why we're repeating them unless it's for reinforcement. The second item of B2 shall not be placed in private property without the approval of the property owner or occupant. Well, I think that's understood, that they can certainly be placed in front of private property, but on private property is certainly a form of trespass, and that's covered by civil law, so we don't need to be bothered with it. I've no real problem with the 2 square meters in area. I think most election signs are that size. So I'm not in approval of this bylaw because I think it's anti-democratic and it's unnecessarily restricting people from being involved in the democratic process. Having said that, I will call for the vote and watch my objections be overruled. All those in favor? See, told you so. Thank you. Next item is public notices bylaw. Item 13D. Corporate Officer again, I believe.
Thank you. The Community Charter and Local Government Act require the village to provide public notice in accordance with Section 94 of the Charter with certain matters of public interest. Section 94.1 stipulates that notice must be published in a newspaper that is distributed at least weekly in the area affected by the subject matter of notice for 2 consecutive weeks. In 2021, the charter was amended by Bill 26, and with this amendment, a section was added giving local governments the authority to establish a bylaw to provide for alternative means of publishing a notice instead of by newspaper. In 2022, a regulation also came into effect and prescribed the principles that must be considered before adopting a bylaw under this section. The charter requires that at least 2 means of publication be specified in the bylaw, excluding posting in the public notice places. Additionally, the regulation requires that the means of publication should be reliable, accessible, and suitable for providing notices in the view of council. The village's current public notice practice is to place an advertisement in the Agassiz Harrison Observer. They still produce hard copy newspapers. However, engaging newspaper carriers has been a challenge. Therefore, it appears that newspapers are not reaching a vast majority of residences in the village. This hinders the village's ability to ensure compliance with the public notification requirements as set out in Section 94.1 of the Charter. Attached to this report is draft public notice bylaw number 1200/2024 for council's consideration. In addition to posting on the village's website, which is already the current practice, the proposed bylaw introduces direct mail via Canada Post as an alternative to newspaper advertising. This method of public notice is reliable and accessible to all who have a registered mailbox in the village. In consultation with Canada Post, staff has determined that direct mail meets the suitability requirements of the regulation, as notices can be clearly and legibly posted on regular paper, can be placed in the boxes by the required date with enough advance notice, and can be consulted more than once during the period of the notice by the recipient. And those are the regulations as outlined in the BC regulation, also attached to this report. This bylaw does not alter the requirement to post notice in the public posting places, which are the website and the public notice bulletin boards. This proposed bylaw can only provide an alternative to newspaper publication. Additionally, the notice must be published at least 7 days before the date of the matter. Staff is not recommending any additional publication methods be added to this bylaw, as those methods would then become mandatory for all statutory notices. If this bylaw were to proceed, there will be an amendment that will be required to Development Procedures Bylaw number 1090/2016. There's a reference in there to newspaper advertisements as it pertains to public hearings for developments. Currently, this bylaw has been flagged for review, so that section would be identified as well. For financial considerations, notices required to be published by law are often lengthy and contain a lot of information and often a map as well. Typically, they need to be on at least a quarter-page advertisement. The cost of such an advertisement is approximately $600, and that's to run twice. Staff have been in contact with Canada Post who have advised that direct mail is available to the village for 18 cents per page and that there are 1,004 post office boxes. The total cost of supplies and distribution is estimated to be approximately $260 plus any staff time required. There are also full-service printing companies that the village can consider using in the future. In addition to the cost savings, direct mail ensures that large hard copies of notices are distributed to residents in the absence of newspaper deliveries in the area. And so the recommendation before council is that public notice bylaw number 1200/2024 be given first, second, and third reading.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Facio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Is that okay to have all 3 readings in one resolution, Madam CEO? Further discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Motion is carried. I think it's important to note that Black Press, which owns the Agassiz Observer and many other small papers in BC, is in crisis at the moment and is being sold off probably to an American vulture fund. And there's an expectation that throughout BC, we are going to lose many, if not all, of our community newspapers, which is a real challenge for municipalities who have an obligation to communicate to the public. So moving on then to am I at 14 now? No.
Yeah.
Yes, item 14 is a bylaw which I will have. The recommendation is that whereas the Village Development Procedure Bylaw number 1090 sets out the requirements for delivering notices of public notification meeting and notices of intent to neighboring properties within a 30-meter radius. And whereas the radius does not adequately capture the number of properties that may be impacted by the proposed application, therefore be it resolved that staff, as part of the review of land development bylaws and related policies, processes currently underway, be directed to draft an amendment to Development Procedures Bylaw number 1090 as follows: to increase the requirement to deliver notices to neighboring properties from 30 meters to 200 meters in the case of an applicant holding a public notification meeting, or in the case of village proceeding with the notice of intent process, and to substitute requirements relating to newspaper advertisement with flyers to be distributed by Canada Post in conjunction with the village's proposed public notice bylaw number 1200/2024, which we just gave 3 readings to. Somebody like to second that motion? Councillor Jackson, discussion required? All those in favor? All those in favor? This is part of the bylaw we just gave 3 readings to. It's a continuation of that process. Seconded by Councillor. Are you voting? Oh, we're at discussion. I thought it was a routine thing as continuation of what we just did, but carry on, Councillor Vidal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to our CAO, I believe that council already has the authority to expand a radius of notification for surrounding properties if we choose to do that. So I am really not sure that Councillor Allen's request is even necessary. Perhaps you could clarify. Thank you.
Through you, Acting Mayor Allen to Councillor Vital. You are correct. The current minimum is 30 meters, and it is council's, if it is council's wish at the time when they're entertaining development items at the table to increase that to, it can be 1,000 meters if they wanted, but certainly 200 meters. 100 is quite often the norm, but 200 seems to be a little larger than normal.
Thank you.
Further discussion? All those in favor? In favor of? Well. Is it because this is new business under my name that we're not continuing this? Would you prefer that?
No, because, excuse me, butting in, sir, because we've had the explanation from Councillor Vidal asking our CAO that it's at council's discretion if we wish to extend the radius. We already have that in our bylaw.
Yes, well, then that becomes a question about whose decision is it? And under what circumstances do you apply the extended notice area? If we have a standard procedure, it's clear to the people that are involved, they being perhaps the developers, the staff and the council and the public, that in the event that a notice is required, that there will be a useful radius of 200 meters in which people who will be affected by the development have been given the guarantee that they will receive notification that it's going to happen. And the criteria for 200 meters comes from a study that said that any development that's happening is going to affect anybody who lives within sight of the development. And 200 meters being 660 feet probably is considered a reasonable distance that if you're going to have a new structure in the sight line or the view from your front yard or your backyard or your driveway, that you're entitled to know that that's going to be happening and is going to be part of your view for the future. And you need to be notified so that if you have a comment about it, you at least have the opportunity to talk about that with council. So in my mind, this is a perfectly reasonable radius, and we should incorporate it if we really want to reach out and involve and engage the public in the decisions of the development of their own community, which I hope is the objective. I don't see why we won't do it. The costs of doing it will be covered by the developer under the development rules, who pays the costs of the advertising, the distribution, the delivery, etc. So it's of no cost to the village, and it's of great benefit to those who are entitled to know what is going on in their neighborhoods, in my opinion. But let's hear what Councillor Facio has to say. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Just the final word is with the extensive advertising that we've just passed, which I really like in the mailboxes, plus the public hearing and the notices. Anybody who would be interested would have read, and if they're interested, they have the right to come to a public hearing and speak 3 times, whether they like the idea of something close to them or they don't. Thank you.
Well, I take your points, Councillor Facio, but I would point out that delivery in the mailbox is great for those of us who live here and are here year round and get to the mailbox. A lot of people, particularly in the downtown core area and even back in the residential area, may be seasonal residents who are gone for parts of the winter. If we mail them a notice, there's a chance they're going to get it. If they live in Vancouver and they're just here perhaps during the summer, there's a chance they're going to get the notice if it happens in winter time. So the intent here is to reach out and to be inclusive and let people know what's going on. And it's at no cost to the village, and I really don't see why we wouldn't proceed to do it. But let's move ahead and see what happens. Are we ready for the vote? I'm going to call it one more time. All those in favor of item 14A? Me. Those opposed? The motion fails. All right, we're ready for adjournment, I believe. We're not?
No,
Oh,
we have
14B and C.
14B and C, yes.
Sorry. I've got the notes here. Okay, Mr. CEO, what have we got on 14B?
14B is discussion about the 4 oak trees on Lillooet.
Okay, so what is the resolution?
I'll ask Councillor Fascio to read out his resolution, please.
My resolution, after Councillor Jackson's comments earlier on this evening, that this be referred back to staff and that all of council receive the legal investigation that you were speaking about that we haven't seen.
Okay, is there a seconder for that? Seconder, Councillor Vidal. All discussion of any? All those in favor? Motion is carried. 14 C. What is that one, CAO?
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Alan, I will refer to is regarding the OCP, and I'll refer that to Councillor Vital.
Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do you request I read out the motion again?
Yes, please. For acting Mayor Alan, staff would like that read out again, please.
I don't actually have a motion in front of me. It
All
was,
right, I will read it again for staff. That official community plan bylaw number 1184, 2022, as amended to comply with section 473 subsection 3 of the Local Government Act be placed on the March 4th, 2024 regular council meeting for consideration of third reading and adoption.
I will second that, Mr. Mayor.
seconded by Councillor Fazio. Discussion. Councillor Jackson, Councillor Vidal, discussion. I thought. Yeah, I think I was recognizing you. I think you indicated you wanted to say something. So I'm giving you
Yes.
that opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, that you indicated you had advised Councillor Jackson he could go first, but I will carry on. The intent of this motion is that the last time that the OCP wasn't adopted, it was because of a concern about it didn't comply with this section I quoted, section 473, subsection 3 of the Local Government Act. Because council has not had the opportunity now to review the OCP in its entirety with that amendment, I believe that council should have the opportunity before we even take another shot at adopting it. That is the intent of my motion. Thank you.
Further discussion? Well, I would like to have a comment. I'd like to restate my concern that every other municipality has stopped dealing with OCPs while they wait to see what new rules Mr. Eby is going to impose on us. And that will become clear probably later this week, because they have to table not just these 4 new bills, but also the regulations. And everybody is waiting to see what that is. The general consensus at the conference that I attended in Vancouver was that it will require all of our official community plan bylaws and zoning bylaws to be written completely differently in a different format with different content, and also incorporate the arbitrary rules will be imposed on us by Victoria when doing our land use regulations. So I don't see any point in going ahead with a bylaw that is doomed, which all of them are currently, and some of them have been at theirs longer than ours, until we get clarification on that. And that clarification is not going to come by March the 4th, I don't think, which is the next meeting. It'll come at some point after that. So I just don't see any point in moving ahead with adopting or trying to adopt a bylaw, which we know is going to be thrown out anyway. But you go ahead and let's do what you want to do. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Mayor Allen opposed, please note. Now I'm ready for adjournment. Would somebody like to move for adjournment, please? Move.
We have
Councillor
questions
Jackson.
from the public. We have questions from the public on the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, correct, Councillor Rita. I'm just showing some signs of exhaustion. My apologies. Yes, madam,
Good
you
evening.
have a question. Please state your question.
My question is in regards to the skating rink.
Sorry, could you please give the recording secretary your full name just for the record?
Teresa Amelis, 641 Schooner Place, Harrison Hot Springs. My question is in regards to the Starlight Skating Rink. And I'd like to provide a little bit of information within my question. Has any consideration been given to actually enlarging the size of the skating rink? My rationale for suggesting that is to allow more participation from Harrison residents of different age groups, as well as other surrounding communities. If you were to enlarge the skating rink, you could potentially get a casual hockey league going. You could get like a little beer league going, people that wanted to do a pickup hockey game, things like that. I understand the current structure has a centerpiece. So if that could be removed and other pieces expanded, I provide for you the information that a regulation NHL rink is in the US is 200 feet by 85 feet. That's obviously too big. The international rink is 98.4 feet by 196.9 feet. So sorry, 196.9 by 98.4 feet. That's also too big. However, a regulation sized figure skating rink is 200 feet long by 100 feet wide, which is also too big. But some compromise that would allow more participation would be beneficial in the long term. I do not want to see the skating rink sitting and doing nothing, nor do a number of people in the village. And I also do not want to lose the $450,000 RMI funding. So I've been working on this, running things through my head for a number of months. And I think a compromise actually in a long-term payout would be to expand it, to make it a permanent location so that it could be run in the winter, because we do not have suitable winter temperatures to have an actual ice rink of water or ice. So if we could have a permanent location, perhaps behind the public works yard or some other suitable size, we could make it long-term. You could use Robson Square as a model for the roof. And I suggest that because it would be a simple welding project. And there are a number of new welders that were just hired in Agassiz and the surrounding areas, student welders. So that might be a nice project for them to do for a simple roof. And I think it would be great. You could have more participation. You could actually run it for 6 months of the year, and you could pay back by charging a nominal fee of maybe $2 a person or $10 a team or something like that. And I think it'd be a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Well, I would go one step further than that, and I would say that given the amount of money that we have available, there's nothing to stop us from making it into a real skating rink with real ice. I happened to be in Europe for a short break at New Year's, and all of the small towns have in their central plaza a real skating rink on real ice, some as small as ours, some bigger, and all they do is they bring in a compressor, they plug it in to some electrical supply, they pour the water in, and they have real ice for the 2 or 3 months that they run it during the December and January period. So I don't see any reason why we in Harrison should settle for plastic ice when real ice is available. If you put it inside the tent that I'd suggested, that gives you climate control. It allows you to keep it cool, keep the sun off it, keep the sand off it, and keep it in good shape for skating. And you can use it year round, whether it's snowing or raining or blowing. It's a year round, or as long as you want to operate it, skating thing. So if there is skating to be happening in Harrison as the winter activity, I'd suggest that we think a little bit beyond plastic sheets and think about making a real ice sheet that people can enjoy the pleasure of gliding on ice rather than struggling on plastic. And believe it or not, I skated a lot when I was a young man, so I know what ice is like. So thank you. Is there one more question? Could you start with your name, please, sir? And you have to push a button to get the red light to come on at the microphone.
Hi, my name is Tim Weirks. I'm from 889 Hot Springs Road. I applied for the development permit. I just wanted to clear up a few things that I'm not sure. I sent in a whole package with 3D drawings and a layout of everything. I'm not sure if anyone has seen that. I did apply to get the setbacks reduced. The reason was I'd like to be able to keep a grocery store there as well as operate a new
So, question period,
Yeah.
if you want to make a presentation to council, you're welcome to do so, but this isn't the time to be doing that.
No,
There
I
is
just
a spot
had
for delegations.
one quick thing.
Okay.
It seemed like it was glossed over, but the fact is, like there was comments made about, like emergency vehicles and whatnot. And zoning C1 and C3 all have 0 lot line setbacks. And I know this one does not, but, emergency vehicles don't necessarily need to go around buildings to be able to service them. And I just wanted to make sure that that point was clear. It's also quite common practice in commercial construction to, have fireproof walls when they're not so close to the lot line, and the structure was meant to be built out of concrete. I just was a little disappointed by what he had all detailed you with, so I just wanted to clear a few things up.
Thank you for that. I should just maybe explain that when we talk about emergency access, it's not confined to vehicles. The firemen themselves often have to go behind a building or through between buildings, and they do need space to do so. So that's
What
part
about
of the fire consideration, which we haven't got to yet.
Yeah, I was
Thank you.
just, yeah, considering like a single story building, just comparing that to some of the stuff that's on the front street here.
Yeah.
It's quite common to be built right tight, and it's just,
Understood. Thank you for your comment. Can turn the mic off. Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
Excuse me,
Oh, sorry.
Mayor.
Questions from Zoom.
Yes, thank you.
We had a long budget meeting this afternoon.
Anybody on Zoom? If you have a
Mr.
question?
Zoomeister, are there any questions on Zoom?
Yes, we have a question from Lisa. Lisa, I'm just gonna unmute you here. You should be allowed, okay, you should be good to talk now, Lisa.
Thank you. Someone who does not reside in Harrison full time, and my mail does not like, I don't get my mail from my mailbox in Harrison. I get it from my home in the Okanagan. Could we add like an email, like the option of snail mail or an email? Like, I understand not everybody does email either, but having the option of a letter mailed or having an email sent would be, well, kind of with the times. Thank you.
So if I understand your question, ma'am, you're asking, is it possible for the village to have an email mailing list in order to deliver notices to people about events in the community? Is that your question?
Yes. In
Okay,
fact,
well,
in Oliver, I get my property taxes, I get everything sent via that way. No mail, no paper mail.
so what you're saying is that the village already has that facility, and you're asking, why don't we use that to provide notification? Is that correct?
Yes, it would save a lot of paper, stamps, time. It's just a one-time where you make a mailing list. If people like myself would prefer to be on an email list, you just add it to the list and it's a one-time shootout.
Thank you for your question and your suggestion. I will refer it to our Chief Administrative Officer, who will be delighted to sit down tomorrow and make all those entries and create that list. I think it's worth consideration in the modern era because things are changing. Thank you for your question. Any other questions, Mr. Zoomeister?
Yes, I do have another question. This one's unnamed, just says iPhone, but iPhone 3, I'm gonna unmute you here. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi, I would just like to inquire how much council spent on legal fees to censor our freedom of speech.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor, if the resident could identify themselves
Deanna
first before
Fellows.
speaking. Thank
Deanna
you.
Fellows.
Yeah. Okay, I will answer your question. The expenditures only hasn't started yet. The resolution tonight is the start of that process to censor.
So as a
Facebook
village,
pages.
we are going to start censorship of our Charter of Rights?
Well, I think so, but hey, there you go. Thank you for the question. I don't think we've done it yet. The instructions are to go hire the lawyers and get at it.
Well, I've called Global News. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Motion to, are there any more questions?
No, there are no other questions.
There being no more questions, I'd thank you all for your attendance tonight and your attention on Zoom. And I'll call for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Vidal, seconded by Councillor Facio. All those in favor? This meeting is over. Thank you.